my name is Evelyn, and I'm here with my prevention team here from Tri-Valley Haven, and my role here is a preventionist.
Hi, my name is Kiran and I'm a counselor. I'm here with my prevention team.
Hi, I'm Jaylyn and I'm a preventionist at Tri-Valley Haven. You're tuning into Healthy Habits with the Haven, where we talk about mental health and healthy relationships for teens. I know we've been in the pandemic for a long time, and we've been hearing people say stuff like, I need to take a mental health day. It's really wearing on my mental health. I just need some time to work on my mental health. So how would you describe what are some common issues and stressors that might trigger mental health problems for teenagers?
That's a great question. So, some stressors that may trigger problems for teens right now, definitely COVID stress. COVID stress is real right now. There's a lot of changes going on, there's a lot of adaptation, and it just stresses us out. School's different, work's different, family life is different. There's also the consistent school stress. I think that everyone's always stressed at school. There's a lot of things to do, there's homework. There's, adapting to the new classes, learning Zoom online, doing everything technological. So that is a big, huge stressor. There's also the constant always of seeking acceptance. So I feel that, students are always trying to see where they fit in, where they're going, life adaptations overall. So that can be a really big trigger problem as well. There's also bullying, and now more than ever, cyberbullying is at its peak. And that can also be another stressor and a trigger problem. And another important thing to talk about is childhood trauma, which focuses on ACEs. And these are basically experiences that teens before the age of 18 experience and confront with. And this includes all kinds of abuse. So this is like neglection, and as well as parental mental issues. And there's also substance abuse. There's divorce and incarceration and domestic violence as well. So these all add up, and obviously if some stressors keep going and if they're not resolved, they can accumulate, and that if they're not addressed, then it can possibly lead to very serious mental health conditions, including depression. So we're aware that some stressors and the triggers can accumulate for students, and it could lead to serious mental health problems like having depression. So can you tell us what is depression?
Depression is basically constant feeling of sadness and loss of interest, which stops you doing your normal activities. This persistent feeling of sadness or loss of interest can lead to a range of behavioral and physical symptoms. And these may include, but not limited to, change in sleep, appetite, energy level, concentration, problems in work side, problems in studies, self-esteem, and thoughts of suicide. And I would like to add it, generally depression does not result from a single event, but from a mix of events and factors. Possibly cause include a combination of biological and psychological and social stress, or maybe social distress as well. Many researchers suggested these factors may cause changes in brain function, including alerted activities of certain neural circuits in the brain that lead to depression. So basically, whatever stress we are having, especially for the teen in the school COVID situation, that messes with our brain functioning. And if there's no support, kids started feeling depressed. So if you or your teen feel depressed or having symptoms, see your doctor, psychotherapist. Don't delay. The mainstay of treatment is usually medication, talk therapy, or a combination of the two. And seeking support always going to help you to stop symptoms to going to be worse. And many researchers suggested that treatment may normalize the brain functioning as well.
I'm glad that we focus on some of the main points of depression. That's really good information. Is there anything in the DSM-5 that involves a diagnosis criteria for depression?
That's a good question. Actually, psychologists, psychotherapists, or psychiatrists, they always use DSM to diagnose or assess the clients who have any kind of mental health diagnosis. So as we know, most people feel sad or low at some point in their life. However, not always everyone has a clinical depression. So clinical depression and depression symptoms kind of similar but not the same. So Basically, in DSM, if therapist or psychologist is a kind of like diagnosing someone as for depression, they use the like a few criteria. The most important that they individual need to be experiencing at least 5 of the symptoms, and all of out of 5, either they have to like a depressed mood or loss of interest in normal activities and relationship. One of these criteria need to be met to fulfill the clinical depression criteria. And apart from that, there's a few more symptoms are there, like fatigue, loss of energy, feeling of worthlessness, and insomnia, restlessness, or suicidal thoughts. But most important thing is in this, it's supposed to be like affecting your everyday functioning, and you need to individual need to be like going through the symptoms at least for the 2 weeks. So if it is less than 2 weeks, that means you have some things which going on. It's maybe situational, but not a clinical depression. But if it is going more than 2 weeks or months or years, that means you are going through a clinical depression. And also, it's not to be result of like any kind of medication or substances. So basically, these are the rule out criteria, where we can see that okay, these are symptoms are present, and it's going through like from last 2 weeks. So now this person has a clinical depression. We just talked about the like depression, addiction, and other things. I was just wondering, what is the difference between sadness and depression?
The difference between sadness and depression, some of the biggest factors are like impact and also duration. So like you were saying, if it's like 2 weeks or less, it could just be situational. So maybe you're going through something like at work or at school. Maybe you have like a problem with your friend or your relationship or something that's affecting you right now, and you feel a little bit down, but it's not impacting your everyday life. You're still able to enjoy those things like your hobbies, spending time with loved ones, and things like that. Depression is when it takes that a step further. So it's lasting longer than 2 weeks, and now it's beginning to affect your everyday life. So now it's like your activities of daily living are having issues. You don't want to shower, brush your teeth. You're feeling more fatigued. You have this like constant feeling of like hopelessness, and it's kind of like starting to like engulf your life. At that point, that's when it's starting to spill over into depression.
Thank you for sharing this. And now I was wondering that at what point of time parents should reach for the help?
All right, so that's a really important question, because I know a lot of people start to think like, well, how do I know that I'm like depressed, or I don't want to like go for help with things. I think the first sign that you should like go and get help is when it's starting to impact like your daily activities, your health, and things like that. And reaching out for help doesn't have to be a whole big thing. You don't have to like go and reach out to like the doctor or therapist. Maybe it starts out with you just like reaching out to like one of your friends, a parent, a teacher, a coach, maybe someone like in your church, or like religious leader, or someone you feel comfortable talking to. And there are some like warning signs that you want to look out for, some like really big ones. So like that feeling of hopelessness that I mentioned before, changes in your habits. So maybe you're not eating as well, you're not sleeping as well. You're feeling like irritable, agitated, you're feeling aches and pains, because remember, mental health is not just mental, it's also beginning to affect you physically, and that's a big warning sign when the mental becomes physical. So things like feeling like guilty, hopelessness. Also, if all of a sudden you're feeling thoughts of like self-harm or like self-injurious behavior, you're feeling maybe like if you feel like you want to like kill yourself, commit suicide, and things like that, or maybe you're suddenly turning into an increased use of drugs and alcohol. So maybe you might have had like a drink here or there, but now it's becoming more consistent and you feel the need to like rely on it. That's a big sign that you need to reach out for help. There's a lot of stressors that are affecting teens right now, and I know they have like a whole variety of different kind of like coping mechanisms and things. But like I know when coping becomes like unhealthy, obsessive, and it turns like into addiction, and we use that a lot. So how would you describe addiction? Like what is it? How does that start to affect someone, especially a teenager?
It's actually a mental health condition, and this can look like substance abuse, drug abuse. A really common one that we find in teens is the use of alcohol and the abuse of it. Obviously, they're drinking underage. This is a very common substance that a lot of people use. It's used at parties, gatherings, things like that. Obviously, this might involve underage drinking. There can also be alcohol poisoning, which a lot of people are not aware about the symptoms, and we'll also talk about that as well. And overall, together, these addictions, they affect our judgment, and not just teenagers, but everyone's. So this can be really consequential to our lives and our actions. We also might not think about it in the moment, but addiction can cause long-term consequences, which include physical and mental effects overall. And although some folks may use alcohol or substances to cope with their issues and problems, it's not the healthiest of choices. And it is good to know as well that unfortunately over half of rape cases include substances, which lead to the survivor and perpetrator being aware of those that's how they can affect somebody in regards to addiction.
You mentioned teens drinking. I know that can be like a pretty big problem, and we can't always, like stop that. So do you have any specific like safety tips to like help when it comes to drinking for teens and adults who are using that as like a coping skill?
So some good tips when it comes to drinking. I really love that we have the Good Samaritan law, and this protects underage drinkers. You will not get in trouble for calling for help if you do need it. In case your friend or someone that you know does have alcohol poisoning, you will not get in trouble because of this law. This person needs aid, they need help, and if you call, there's no consequence whatsoever. You are helping the person, you're preventing them from further danger and from seeking the help that they need. So that's one of the very good laws and tips that I suggest. And also, you want to be aware of how to drink safely. Try to drink in public spaces. Be aware of your surroundings, making sure you know what you're drinking, what's poured into your drink, and always try to pour your own drink. Never leave your drink alone. Never leave it unattended, and don't suggest someone to get you a drink. You want to see what they pour and what they put in it. Also, not to share your drinks and food. Again, it can, someone can slip something on there, or you just want to be aware of what you're putting into your body. So being aware of that is really, really high key. And definitely staying in groups. Don't separate from your group. Don't separate from your friends. Also letting people know where you are. I know that phones have location capability now, so leave that enabled. Leave your notification and your location open. Just notify people, update them. Let them know maybe even how many drinks you've had. So that keeps you safe amongst many other things. And never, never drive, even if it's one drink.
All right, and that's a wrap. Thank you for tuning in with us today on Healthy Habits with the Haven. Please follow us on Instagram, Facebook, TikTok on our tag Tri-Valley Haven. I'm Jaylyn. It's Kiran, Evelyn, and we're signing off. We'll see you next time.